Hello.
What's going on, everybody? What's up? This is SafeWord. All right.
That sounds like will happen one day.
This is SafeWord, a platform for teaching, learning, and opening the eyes of our audience to the world of kink, BDSM, and relationships. You guessed it. I am your host, Mr. K. Marcos.
And I am your other host, Aurora Storm.
And I'm your co-host, Knight Wagner.
So, if you watched our last video, I think you have a good idea what the kink of the month is. That's what we're talking about tonight. If you didn't, I'm going to need you to go and check that out and watch it. Figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Or stay tuned. You'll find out later.
So,
But
if you're watching this, do us a favor, like and subscribe to stay up to date on more educational content on kink, BDSM, and relationships.
All right, so real quick, we just need to say hello to our A1 since day one. He is our fan favorite. Okay, he rocks with us on all of our shows, all of our lives, all of it. You know, all of it. So, crew, can we say hello to our fan favorite? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hey, Roy! So, yes, if you want your shout out, like Roy gets his shout out every day live, then y'all need to stay tuned and, participate. But if you just landed on this page and you have no idea what you're watching, well, this is SafeWord. And here on SafeWord, we have a safe word of the day. We use this safe word to stop, halt, and completely put a pause on all topic of conversation. So, SafeWord crew, would you like to let everybody know what the safe word of the day is? If you don't know, it's right here on the board. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Peeking! So, say that safe word if the conversation is getting too hot, too heavy, or you just want stuff to stop. But sometimes we're saying the safe word, can't hear each other. So, crew, what do we do when we're saying the safe word and no one's shutting the heck up? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cow! Throw up that symbol if you are saying the safe word of the day and no one's shutting the heck up. And make sure that you say the safe word of the day so that everyone knows what it is. Mr. King, do we have hot topics?
Yes, Miss Aurora, we do. All right, so I decided to keep it a little short and hopefully, on the lighter side of things, just because I know I always bring the doom and gloom. So, with that being said, kind of bringing up a little bit of doom and gloom. So everybody knows that Roe v. Wade got overturned in, the United States, and so I have to specify the United States for our international associate over here, Mr. Knight Wagner. So,
yes.
The only good thing that's kind of come of this so far, and I know I'll probably catch some hell for even saying something good can come of this, is that they're finally actually starting to put a little bit of effort in the science community towards a male birth control pill. So, good news on that front, right?
Oh, what pill?
A male birth control pill. So
I like it. I kind of like this idea. Go ahead, tell us more.
So it's still relatively in development. So I mean that's going to take a little bit of time. I mean I know they've been working at it for quite some time now, but now this has put like a reinvigoration towards finding something that actually works. A couple of things are up in the air about how it's going to necessarily manage that. And what the side effects will be. I mean, like anybody can draft up a pill that can do the job, but what's it going to do on the long run? What are the side effects? Is it going to cause impotency if you use it for longer than 3 years? Is it just one of those things that you take daily and it just kind of makes sperm immobile or just eradicate it altogether, which again comes with its own host of problems because I don't know about a lot of men out there don't know a whole lot about the reproductive system outside of it feels good. So, having a bunch of dead swimmers, in the in that nice little sack you got down there might not be the best thing. I mean, you don't want anything dead inside of you. So,
but your body's full of dead things.
Well, right. Here's the other thing. Like, the birth control is the same thing for women, too. Like, Depo, that can cause all sorts of issues with, not being able to reproduce or, have children after you get off of it. It causes all sorts of problems. So I think guys should have to go through some of the same problems, too. Why didn't they make this sooner?
Well, and so here's the thing. So exactly that, because I was kind of curious about that as well. But it turns out that, all right, so you can, kind of kill sperm where it is, but the problem is that if you're not releasing that and it starts to sit stagnant, it can create a host of issues. I mean, if you think blue balls is a bad day, try having, what, let's SafeWord coin it right now, dead balls. So
Dead balls. All right.
Dead balls.
it's like you just feel like you got
Dead
25
balls.
pounds sitting inside there just sloshing around, not doing a damn thing.
So you need to manually release the pressure every other day.
Yeah, you got to exhaust that valve, just let that kettle whistle. So, and the other thing that they were kind of mentioning is that it's the difference between killing one cell versus a group of cells. So that's the reason why male birth control is a little bit more up in the air as far as, trying to get something that works. But again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not on the team or anything, so if I've miscategorized or misinterpreted any of this information and you know better, do me a favor, drop it in the comments, educate me, because hey, I don't know a whole lot about it outside of, hey, it feels good. So
well, I mean, what's wrong with like a hot bath? Doesn't that boil the huevos as well? And
no, that's how you get girls.
Okay, hold on. This guy, I gotta say something real quick because y'all gonna find this out about Night no way, okay? And if you really want to find out, you could watch an episode of House Hunters to figure this out. But Mr. Night Wagner likes his bath time, so there's gonna be lots of mentions of bath times and squeaky rubber duckies, and he likes his male relaxed time.
I ain't mad at it.
So that's why I was losing it when he brought up the bath, okay?
But that's a surefire way, at least in my history. Clear record. Hot bath correlation. You tell me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
kills it off.
During my time in the Marine Corps, I was a calibration technician, and we had this one machine that would just emit RF radio frequency. And so there was always a common thing, going around the calibration community where it was like, oh yeah, if you want girls, just go and like put your shit on top of that RF machine for a little while, because for some reason the radio frequency just like gets rid of all of the Y chromosomes in there, and just you're shooting X's. And it was funny because everybody who worked in RF, when they had kids, it was almost 99.9% guaranteed that it was going to be a girl. So
interesting.
Yeah, so radio frequency has something to do with it. And I know I brought it to you guys in a hot topic before, where they were actually creating this kind of like male birth control bath. It's like a small little cup that plugs into the wall, and it basically like just shoots RF frequency and warm water, and you just rest your scrotum in that for like 10-15 minutes a day, and it was male birth. That was the male birth control, but now they're trying to put it in a pill. So I like that a whole lot better than
amazing bath time. So I'm just saying.
No.
I gotta say, I like that a whole lot better than water and electrical. Just
right
on the off chance that
pill, please. I mean, honestly speaking, it's only fair. They have a number of let's say, call it contraceptives, if you will, but health-wise, for example, Viagra has other side effects that make it more, viable on the market, right?
Yeah.
So when we have something on the opposite end, because some women take birth control not just to stymie the reproductive process. There's also, side effects that are beneficial. Some of them are negative. So the male birth control pill will probably have, a similar record, some positive effects, some negative effects, but ultimately, it'll stop you from shooting the bullet from the gun, which really, when you think about it, is the main problem. It's not the person getting hit, right? They shouldn't have to wear the bulletproof vest.
It's where you're aiming your weapon,
right?
That does make a ton of sense, but like I want them to develop this a little bit more. I don't want it to be like, a lot of the vaccines they've put out recently where it's just like, hey, try this new experimental, drug or anything. I want to make sure they get all the kinks out, because the last thing I want to do is be in like the first round of male birth control trials and find out like the leading side effect is erectile dysfunction.
No, they tested it on rats. It's okay. It's good to go.
Yeah, I mean, me and rats don't have too much in common, so...
Except huge balls.
Huge balls.
How'd you know?
Oh, gosh. All right, well, now that we know what size Kane's balls are, was that it on the story?
Like the size of 2 shooter marbles. Nah. That's all I have for the male birth control, but I do have one more, and this one is by far the most interesting thing that I've ever brought before, because I know we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. So without further ado, I didn't know this, okay? So all of you guys have heard about like the fleshlight, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Famous
yeah,
famous
definitely.
product.
Right.
At
So
the wheel.
I got a buddy who's got a funny story about a fleshlight, so I'll bring that to the Patreon because that one was pure gold. But so there's been a lot, in development in the male gratification sexual toy department. And so, news to me, as I was doing some research to try and find out what to bring to Hot Topics, there is an artificial intelligence oral sex robot. So it looks a lot like a fleshlight,
Okay.
except it's a little bit bigger. It's got a little canister on it. It's white and blue, and it's got some rubber end caps on it. So, I mean, use your imagination, right? They just put out an update, and this is what made it, just pure gold. I had to bring it to you guys tonight. They just put out an update where now the AI can receive voice commands.
What? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Go faster. Go slower. Harder.
Let that sink in.
Brain.
Yo,
Right?
I just want to know if this thing if you can program it to do like the good old Mortal Kombat finish me.
And it goes into overdrive mode. Is that what?
Okay,
It's
now
like-
here's something to think about though, because I don't know. I just have a thing with technology, and technology always likes to crash on me. So
Don't do that.
as a guy,
Don't do
Oh,
that.
I would totally want to. I would totally want to try it, but in the same aspect, what happens if there's a glitch and you're like harder, faster, and then it just is like can't understand
And it
you.
freaks
Can't
out?
understand.
Like Alexa? No, don't do it. No.
No,
Uh-oh.
stop.
Yo, it like Chinese finger traps your junk. Yeah, that'd be all bad.
Right.
No. Why did they have to give it a brain? Like the whole point is
Right.
like you don't want it to talk. You don't want it to
No.
like have an
I don't
opinion.
want it to talk.
Do your job.
Just do your job. Gosh dang it, just be a fleshlight.
You know, you put it on, you're like, activate a speed 3, and it's like, is that it? What? Excuse
Yeah.
you?
So it's like, why? That's a good question. And like, why the AI, and what purpose does the AI serve? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
are they
need this to
expecting
be like
to update
Pandora.
it?
I
Is it
don't
gonna
need
be
you to
something
keep
else?
track of what works and what doesn't. Like,
Yeah, what's your favorite?
is there a thumbs up
Right.
and a thumbs down button? Like, is this pulse okay?
This is
Don't
my
like.
favorite mode. It's like
Yeah.
fleshlight. Go to my favorite mode.
Basically, what other commands can you give it besides, faster, harder, stronger, Daft Punk?
Right.
I don't know. Like, that's why I'm curious about why an AI would be necessary programmed into an oral sex robot for male gratification. Like,
I'll tell you.
I mean,
They will sell your data. They will sell it. It will analyze the length and girth of your manhood and send that off to Facebook and Amazon, and then you're gonna get products on your feeds and your ads, and
oh God,
guaranteed.
Could you imagine like all of these like mobile games and everything that have like push notifications where they like pop up on social media and be like, hey, this person just caught this Pokemon, or hey, this person is inviting you to play Farmville or Candy Crush. This person just pleasured themselves for 26 minutes.
Yeah. To watching this particular video of, grandma doing gardening.
Like, you just know a couple of celebrities have it, so there's going to be a data leak one day where it's just like, yo, what's Jason Momoa's AI robot number? Like, what's the settings?
What is he like? Oh, I'm going to go on Momoa like mode. Ah!
Oh goodness, yeah. Well, and it makes me wonder if they're gonna do updates. Like, will there be voice activation? Like, you can change the voice to like Scarlett Johansson or something talking to you instead.
Oh, it'll talk
Ooh,
back.
that's stone.
Back.
That's great. It'll be like, oh, I'm busy at the moment.
Oh gosh. All right.
All right, that's all I had for that.
All right. Was that all that we had?
Night went
tonight
full
for Hot
Sasha Grey on us, damn.
Is that all we had tonight for Hot Topics? Mr.
Yeah, that's
Dave?
all I had. I just brought some real quick snippets, little goodies to bring you guys, just to get the mood and the vibe going for.
Over watching something that someone would do privately behind closed doors. Some kind of sexual interaction. And so.
Now, does it have to be sexual interaction?
Well, see, and that's just it. There's a lot of things that fall under voyeurism. So, yes and no. Like, if you look it up in Wikipedia and you look up the textbook definition, it's like, what comes up underneath it is like peeping Tom. But that's non-consensual. You can be a voyeur without being illegal. You know what I'm saying? In an consensual setting. And there's a lot of things that fall under those categories. But this is where I'm not going to give you guys too much information because I'm going to be testing my crew to see if you guys know or have an idea or have an opinion on what voyeurism looks like and, all that. So we're going to kick this off with Mr. Kane. All right, kicking it to you. I'm going to ask you the first question tonight. So what is your idea of voyeurism and what do you think falls under that category?
Ooh. All right, so I would say voyeurism is like pretty close to the definition, just like kind of getting sexual gratification out of watching people be like either intimate, naked, or like performing sexual acts. And so a lot of that kind of for me, I kind of think of it as like what you said, that peeping Tom, or like spying on your neighbors or anything. And I think it kind of I think voyeurism would be more common in like bigger cities where you can have a telescope in your loft space and just aim directly straight at the building across from you or something like that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's breaking a couple laws if you get caught, but that happens more often than not. So I would say that definitely falls under voyeurism. Cuckoldry, I think, would fall under voyeurism. Man, I really think there's a lot that falls under that. I mean, like, if you're not necessarily yourself engaged outside of pleasuring yourself, viewing somebody else, either being pleasured or pleasuring themselves, or even just, walking around the house after a shower or something, you're obtaining sexual gratification. I mean, you're getting off to that. So I would say that falls under it. Ooh, no audio.
You're up. No audio at all, huh?
There you go.
No, you're right. It was just...
Oh, you got me?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, the stream is glitchy tonight. That has nothing to do with us. It's something that's going on between YouTube and here.
The Russians!
I know. It's like we keep freezing. I'm watching us on the thing and we're frozen, and then all of a sudden it comes back up and it's playing all fast. So just so you guys know, it has nothing to do with us. We're trying to stream for y'all.
That sucks for Aurora, who's like very expressive with her hands. So, that's just...
Right.
You're talking...
It's like... It's going to be like this. It really is, because I'm like looking at it. It's going to be like this.
Try to sit still.
Knight, so what do you think voyeurism is, and what sort of things do you think fall underneath or under the umbrella of voyeurism?
So I think it's important to make a distinction between, just observing what makes the word voyeur, the beautiful French sound. So for me, I think it has to be you are deriving some emotional sexual response to observing. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be the person that you're looking at doesn't necessarily have to be doing something sexual. They could be wearing, a potato sack. And you can derive some emotional sexual response to that. So if you're watching that, it is voyeurism. And the difference between the legalities of it, that is... to be honest, that probably doesn't make a difference if it is voyeurism or not, because you could be on the beach, for example, and you can't photograph people on the beach, at least in most states, I think.
Right.
Just
but it's a public place, you could...
Right. So a lot of things could fall underneath it. So I'm gonna take this on here for a second and just kind of tell you guys a little bit of something with this. All right.
Clarify.
So to be a voyeur, right? A consensual voyeur. Like, we're not talking about peeping toms. We're not talking about people that look through the blinds and there's spying on them.
What's wrong with that?
Because that's non-consensual. We want consent. Now that's in a play scene. But you could also be considered a voyeur by people watching. Do you know that? Like, if you were people watching, like what you were explaining on the beach, and you're watching people erotically turned on, okay? You're a voyeur. If you get erotically turned on by watching, something. That's why, like, in the video, if you watch the video, there is a clip in there where bread is being buttered, and buns fall to the, because I mean, you could just be sitting there going, oh yeah, look at that bread just being.
That is me at Red Lobster. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it could totally be that too. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. There's all these things that could fall underneath it. So like, if you watch porn, that is considered being a voyeur. If you enjoy that and you watch porn, you've got,
That explains why Starbucks is so popular.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing: people usually
and voyeurism. Now, the voyeurism is again that consent thing. So tricky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Someone who enjoys being watched. So it's almost like forced voyeurism. You don't have to have an audience, but you're in a place where you can be seen.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so is there anything else that you'd like to add to that, Kane?
No, I think Knight pretty much nailed it on the head. I mean, I would pretty much categorize as voyeurism as, you're just watching, and exhibitionism as you're the one engaging. I would say the biggest difference is, like, which party are you? I mean, if you're the one being watched, if you're an exhibitionist, then everybody else seeing you is, or that has the potential to see you, is the voyeur.
Voyeur. Right now, we are exhibitionists.
We're out here for you. We like to do
some stuff, huh?
And that's the catch there, is with exhibitionists, they enjoy being watched. It's, that's the thing. They want the attention. They want to be watched. Some of nudists fall under that kind of category.
Oh, 100%.
Right. Just get nude and look at me. Hey. But okay, so here's a good question for everyone here, because I kind of explained what a voyeur is and what kind of falls underneath that umbrella, and we all kind of gave examples. Do you yourself consider yourself a voyeur? And have you ever participated in some kind of voyeuristic type of a thing? Mr. Kane, since you're so quiet.
Yes, I would absolutely consider myself a voyeur. Again, I'm that red-blooded male that has sexual tendencies, so I do view porn, so I would consider myself a voyeur in that aspect. Also, in the people-watching aspect, man, like spring, summertime, and like the beginning of fall, perfect. Like, everybody calls it flip-flop season. Me, I just like to call it, like my happy-go-lucky season, because high heels, flip-flops, like just walking around the mall, out and about. It's a free show for me. I mean, you don't know how exhibitionist you're being just when you're sitting right there at the lunch table, just like dangling your shoe off your foot, and I'm like trying to pay attention to the person I'm with, like, yeah. So yeah, I would absolutely consider myself a voyeur.
You can consider yourself a voyeur. All right. So, Mr. Knight, would you consider yourself a voyeur, and have you ever participated in some kind of voyeuristic type thing?
This is a tricky one. It's not. I am absolutely 100% a voyeur, and most people are, and they don't realize it. Think about this. You're home, and then you hear weird thumping sound. Your neighbors are getting it on. Now, what do? You turn the stereo up and turn the TV on. I'm like, I don't want to hear none of that. Or you're like, ooh, what's going on there?
Like, what's going on? What's happening?
Right. I mean, that's voyeurism. You may not be seeing it, but you're hearing it. Right. Yep. So I think most of us would be like, oh, okay. Oh, that sounds interesting. So I'm 100% a voyeur. Even more so. And to be honest, consent. I wouldn't call myself a peeking Tom, but here in Europe, the rules are a little bit different.
Hey, for us, Mr. Knight, how are they?
What the fuck?
A little bit different. So, like in Amsterdam, for example, most apartments have drapes in their windows, but they leave them open all the time. And if you close them, it's actually, you're the weird one, and the neighbors wonder, what are you hiding? So everybody has their windows open, blaring. They just walk around, back and forth in front of the windows. And if they're clothed, they're clothed. If they're not, they're not. It's the very free country. But if you're looking, I mean, you're peeking. safe word of the day. But it's okay because they're technically showing.
They're technically showing. They're there to view. Well, in Europe's a little bit different. I mean, there's a lot of nudist beaches and things like that. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, they're a little bit more free with their body. Hence the reason why I started the show, because, sometime in Amsterdam.
I mean, that's really actually, because we're a country of voyeurs. However, in very select circumstances, for example, let's say a woman is at Starbucks breastfeeding.
Okay.
So some people are like, it's no big deal, it's nature, and others like, oh my god, you can't show us that. So where does that fall?
Well, you should be getting consent, and I doubt that the mother that's breastfeeding her child is like, yes, would you like to watch?
But is it implied consent because you're out in public? And it's like, well, I'm not really showing, because it's not like she has it, out in
right
here.
No, she's feeding her child.
Some people are more discreet.
Like, she ain't pulling it out for you. He's like, boobs.
I'm hungry too.
Boobs.
So a couple of things on that. All right, so the other day I went to the grocery store, and there was this lady that was holding a baby, and I'm one of those guys where it's just like, yo, like the newborn babies, like how tiny and frail they are, I think it's adorable. And so I just saw like the back profile of this lady, and she's like walking around, and I just see this little baby foot sticking out. And so I walk by, and I'm just like, oh, I want to see, I call them noo-noos. And so I'm walking by, and I was like, I want to see the noo-noo. So I like kind of walking, and got like this shit-eating grin on, like, oh, I'm about to see a look. And she was breastfeeding. So when I came around the side, and I'm looking like this, total creeper. And she wasn't paying attention, so I was just like, oh. And like try to look away real fast. Try to look away real fast, and then look back, and she had her husband and 2 other kids with her, and her husband was looking at me, and I was just like, my bad, dude. I didn't. And he was like, no, she's out in public with it. So I mean, like it probably happens more often than not for that dude.
I mean,
right.
If you're cool with being out in public, and like I said, it's not just hanging out, flapping in the breeze. Like, do you have a problem with people looking at it or staring at it? Like, you did a glance, you looked away, or just being like, okay, I'll just look. Like if you were just standing there, playing with Julio, I can just look and look.
Right.
Okay.
So, and then the other thing was, I don't know what the whole breastfeeding thing, like, remember when it was a big deal, like being able to breastfeed in public and all of that stuff?
Yeah.
So, went to a family reunion, and let me tell you, the last place you want to see, breasts is at a family reunion.
Wow. Deadly.
And
like, no.
Like, so we're all sitting around talking and everything, like everybody's coming and showing up and everything, and a couple of my cousins, a couple aunts and everything, distant relatives are coming up, and of course they have, like a couple of them have newborn babies, and so they're just so used to it, and doing their daily routine and everything, like they're holding on to their kid, and they'll just be sitting there talking to you, just like, oh yeah, and they just like pull out in front of you, and you're just,
Auntie, no!
Yeah, like...
Auntie!
Auntie, I don't want to see that.
And so it was just kind of funny how, like, just comfortable everybody kind of got with it, like, after it became that big old issue that it was for, like, however long it was. But then, right. Yeah, like I said, the last place you want to start seeing, titties flying out is at a family reunion. But that's like the most common place where, like, that stuff happens, because everyone's like, oh, well, we're all family around here. Nobody should be objectifying me, or nobody should find this sexual, so... No, hell no. Like, everybody's still, like, wildly...
Go and picnics.
Yeah, that's true. There are times that might not be your family, but there are families out there that just nude, just nude.
Just answer the door. Oh, like, Amazon.
Well, and like, family reunions aren't just like family there. Like, you bring like, oh, I'm bringing my partner to the family reunion, or I'm bringing my new girlfriend, I'm bringing my new boyfriend or something. And so it's just like, oh, I forgot to tell you, we're a very sexually open family. So at any point, my cousin might just start breastfeeding in front of you while she's talking to you. So just keep that in mind.
If you heard that,
keep that little nugget in the back of your head.
It's like the 5th date. Let's say that's about when you start meeting the family, right? It's the 5th date, and you're like, oh, to watch everybody, or would you try and hide it as much as you could? Like, what would you do?
So with me, I'm very open. I'll be like, okay, cool, y'all stripping, cool, all right, cool. I'm doing it too, cool.
You join in, all right.
I'm jumping in, cool. We all naked in here. I came over dressed. Got it.
The hell kind of family reunions you having?
Yeah, when you have a barbecue, you let me know.
It's just the human body. It's nudity. It's fine. We all came into this world without no dang clothes on in the first place. So why people get such a attention when people are getting naked? It blows my mind. I'm just like, okay.
Very interesting question. Why? Because like I said, Europe is very different. So is it because everyone feels when it's being voyeurism and it's the consent that they have an issue with, or is it the fact that they themselves don't want to be labeled as a voyeur and try to step back from that?
Well, voyeur does have a negative connotation that runs with it because, yes, there you go. Peeping Tom is what people think of when they say, voyeur. They think of somebody looking through a window and illegally doing it, non-consensually doing it. The other person doesn't know they're being viewed. But I mean, if you're doing it in a consensual manner, like what's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so you like to watch, and this person maybe is an exhibitionist and likes to be watched. So, or just even your partner. Well,
let's take a new beach, for example, here in the U.S. Why is nudity on the beach, barring of course children and those highly religious folk? Why is that such an issue?
I honestly think it's a U.S. thing because we're just kind of conservative and this, that, and the other. But it's really weird because then we have things like the slut walk, that happens in LA every year, or, gay pride in New York where everybody's pretty much nude. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, where is this double standard? There's this double standard here where it's like, oh, it's taboo and you shouldn't, no. And then, but in certain settings, in certain environments, if we're doing it for a cause, then we can be nude and everyone can look. I don't know. It's very confusing here. It's part of the reason why I have this show.
Well, and it's funny because it's just like you're an exhibitionist, but only one day out of the year.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'm sure they play like that at home or with their partners or wherever else because it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? If you're willing to walk down the street nude in a parade, like, I'm sure you're doing some of that at home.
Well,
you
and
know
so
what I'm saying?
something kind of interesting to bring up is like, so at one of the most prolific, just like nude gatherings in the U.S., Eroticon.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So I've been fortunate enough to go to a couple of Eroticons. It's definitely an experience. So, I mean, if you haven't gone or if you're contemplating going, I mean, I definitely said pull the trigger and head out there, buy your ticket now. It's interesting to go to Eroticon and see like these, to see like the models and everybody there, but it's also for me, like having a psychological background, it's interesting to see how many people will, especially like webcam girls that show up at Eroticon and showcase and everything. They're still running their webcams, while they're there. And so they're fully comfortable, doing whatever it is on their screen aimed at their webcam. But as the moment they walk away or they're out of frame, they cover up. And it's just like, that's the kind of thing that really makes me interested is just why, I mean, I get that there's a comfort level, between the webcam and everything, but at Eroticon, I mean,
No. Well, there's that comfort level with the camera, but then there's also the fact that you are then a woman half dressed in a convention center with a bunch of horny dudes that have been watching you for months, years, whatever, 2 days, whatever it is, but they've got a hard on for you. So in an effort not to be harassed, that's where it goes. You know what I'm saying? Because when you walk away from the table and you walk away from your computer or your camera, you're no longer in your safe.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I mean, there's a lot of booths, red ropes and everything. I mean, like you're kind of barred from, being right up there. And then the funny thing about, like the way that you bring that up, away from your safe zone and, being harassed and everything, they have these booths where at certain times it's like you can go up, meet your favorite models, take pictures and everything, and they bear all there as well. So, like I said, it's just kind of interesting.
Paid.
It's
they're being paid. Like this is a job. it's not, you know what I'm saying? A lot of these women that are doing this is a job. So as far as I'm concerned, like if I was one of these women, I'd be like, all right, yeah, okay, I'm doing it for my fans because they're paying me. I'm going to cover up when I walk away. Or you can meet me at the booth in 20 minutes when you're paying me to take a picture.
Yeah, that makes more sense. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, might get the goods for free. Yeah, you bought your ticket.
You
get
bought
to
your
see
ticket,
me,
but you haven't tipped me. You want to see your favorite person. You want to see all that. You're going to have to tip me because everybody that's on my webcam is paying me.
Not everybody.
You know? So that's a big piece of it.
Not everybody. I hacked in. But yeah, that makes more sense. I resonate with that a little easier.
Well, and I can only speak on experience because I had a wife who was in porn. She was pretty big, so I went to a bunch of those different eroticons with her and like the AVNs, that kind of thing. She was huge. She's passed away now, but I mean that was her thing. That was her shtick. She didn't care if people saw her nude, but you ain't seeing all this without paying me, honey. Because I'm sorry, when I do a video, I get $15,000. What?
But I'm a voyeur.
Yeah. I mean, you're a voyeur to a certain point, especially if this is your daily job and all you see is tits, ass, and, you know, D. So, you know, like that's your daily job. You're like, okay, pay me for this because I'm working. So, yeah.
So, if you bring up an interesting point, this is your daily job. You see this all the time, right? Mm-hmm. At some point in time, you get desensitized. Do you stop being a voyeur then?
No, I don't think so. No, I honestly don't think so. I mean, there's pieces that maybe you don't get off to anymore or get sexually aroused by anymore. But I mean, you still, if you're, yeah, no, like
you're a gynecologist, not a voyeur.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So here's an interesting tidbit that, you know, just on the topic of conversation and everything that you brought up, Aurora, that might kind of fit into this category, might not. So bear with me.
Okay.
Hugh Hefner.
Okay.
Right. Everybody knows who Hugh Hefner is, right? You know, owner, creator, founder of the world famous Playboy magazine.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Love him. In peace.
Yep. So one of the things that I don't know if you guys remember the old reality show Girls Next Door.
Yes.
Right. Holly, Bridget, and Kendra. So one of the episodes, they talked about Holly walking around, and they said that, you know, during shoots, you know, like, so everybody knows what Playboy is, everybody knows what Playboy does. And Hugh Hefner actually had a rule where he didn't like when, even during shoots, models walked around the mansion disrobed. So it's like, if you're on set, if you're shooting, you're fine to be disrobed. But if you're going to take a break, or if, you know, they're setting up a new scene and you're going to run to the kitchen, or you're going to go anywhere else, back to your room, anywhere, put a robe on. And so there was a couple episodes and a couple of times where it was brought up that, hey, Hugh Hefner actually frowned upon, you know, just naked women walking through the mansion freely. So at what point then, I mean, like, from the voyeur perspective, I mean, do you think that was a desensitization or just a modesty and respect thing? Because Hugh Hefner was from a very different time, despite the company and the corporation that he created.
Yeah, that's his home. Like, through his home, yeah.
His home.
And honestly, like, yeah, because it was his house. Like, yeah, it was a Playboy mansion, but that was his home. So, yeah, I think there was a level of respect that goes along with it. Also, that's what he did for a job. So, boobs, ass, all he saw it all the time. Desensitization. No, just be classy and walk through the house and put a robe on. You know what I'm saying? As you're going to your shoot. Hello? Yeah.
I think also, it's when you're immersed in that life for decades.
Yeah.
You have to have some foundation or some baseline to sort of keep it, you know, keep it even keel. So I would even have those rules as well, just to have some sense of normalcy in the madness that from looking from the outside, you can't imagine what that life would be like. So on the inside, it'd be like, okay, you know, I see this. I've been seeing this for 40 years, but, you know, let's make these rules so that, you know, like the mafia is the same thing. They have rules.
Yeah. Well, and part of it.
Why are we following these rules? You know.
Part of it might have been that he was a voyeur himself, and so these women walking through his home, because they were always doing shoots, always doing something. There was always women in the home. how does he get it up and even get turned on if all he's ever seeing is boobs and
If it's always on, you got to turn it off sometimes.
All right, no, no. And then when he's getting with his girlfriends, he's like, yeah, seen him.
Thousands. Can you imagine how many?
At that point, tits just look like tits, ass just looks like ass, and it's just it's all the same shit.
How do you not get tired of that after? Because he was old. He was old.
Right.
How do you not get tired?
Like that's it. It becomes your job, and it's like any other job. You go to work and you work, and it's work.
So so it never stops being voyeurism, but it could be boring.
Right. It could be boring. Exactly. Okay, so this is the last question of the night. I am going to ask for an example of a time. Well, and I didn't answer real quick because I didn't answer. I was a voyeur, but yes, I am very much so. I like watching. I'm almost that, like when I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I'm that creepy girlfriend where you're taking a shower and I want to come in and watch you just shower. Just want to watch. Just want to watch. I'm creepy. It's fine. It's my thing. I'm a kinkster. Hey. But
now,
here's what
before moving on to the next one, I've actually got something on top of that. What about myself, which is really strange, and maybe we could dissect this a little bit.
Ooh.
I wouldn't have a problem watching people in, let's say, more sexual instances, but I would get a little bit uncomfortable watching them in some intimate instances, like a kiss, passionate kiss. But the passionate kiss, I would, give them their privacy.
Oh, okay.
But if they were like, rah, 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 I'd be like,
right. It's a sex club. Then and you're gonna watch. They kiss.
So
okay.
That's
foreplay.
Like why is that a thing? Because a lot of people find this line. Where is that dividing line between I will watch and now I won't watch?
Well, and I think that's. Go ahead, Kane. Go ahead.
So the arousal and the emotional connection part of your brains are actually two separate pieces, and so there's a part of nature, nurture, the way you were raised, the way that you view intimacy, to where intimacy in some ways or in its own right is somewhat, you hold it more sacred than you would as seeing people actually engage in intercourse. And so at one point there's a difference between arousal and there's a difference between emotional connection. So when you see somebody engaged in an intimate and passionate kiss, it's engaging that intimacy and you feel the emotional connection more than the arousal portion of it, to where you honestly have that turn off, that shut off in your brain, where it's just like, oh, that is their private moment. Their privacy is, just because of like I said, the way you were raised, the way you view intimacy, it might somehow in a weird way kind of link up to viewing your parents, like you always saw, strong, healthy relationships in your life, and you give your parents or you give your friends crap, like, nobody wants to see that. But at the same time, you're still very emotionally invested in the fact that somebody has a healthy relationship and that they are engaged and they do still feel that way about each other. So I think that's the disconnect, is somehow your brain is associating intimate moments like passionate kisses and, like spooning, cuddles and things like that as an aw instead of a oh yeah. So
you heard that here. For Kane said kissing and spooning, not sexual. Boring.
It can be very sexual, okay?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't suggest that you watch two people that are being intimate with each other. But that also depends on your location, okay? That also, I love that you gave the emotion versus sexual, and what your brain does. But it's also part of how you grew up. So social construct, where you're at, you know what I'm saying? As far as what's right, what's wrong, what you've been raised to think. Because even people here in the U.S. that have grown up in a very open family may watch some stuff like that and get turned on. You know what I'm saying? Because there have been that, hey, this is not acceptable here. I mean, in other countries, that kind of thing is acceptable. So, yeah, completely different. So I really think it has to deal with your location and the social constructs that that are built
Because
around it.
remember, we're the only place that's like, hey, get a room.
Right, exactly. Everybody else is like, yeah.
Everyone else is don't like it, don't watch.
All right. All right, so I'm going to hit you guys with one last question, and we're going to end this because this thing is super glitchy. I'm hoping that people can at least understand what we're saying, even if the video feed is glitchy, okay? But the last question that I have for you guys is to give me an example of a time that you participated in voyeurism. Oof. And I'm going to kick it to King because he's looking very uncomfortable. Why do you look uncomfortable, sir?
He's like, just one time?
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't uncomfortable. I was literally I was like this in the Rolodex of memories.
Yeah.
Whoa,
so
what's going to get me banned here?
So the times when I was a legal voyeur, yeah, I've engaged in some. I've been engaged in a couple of contracts where it was more or less for the other party involved, where they were just like they enjoyed the exhibitionist aspect of it to where they liked being watched, but they were a lot of people always begin the conversation with, it's hard to find people that like to watch without it being creepy, without them knocking on the window like, hey, can I come in? Like, no, you were just supposed to watch. And so it was just kind of like finding a comfortable party that with just viewing. And so it's like, oh, well, you know what? You're kind of hot. Yeah, I'll sign this contract with you, and, you know, I'll get a key to your place, or, you know, an exposed window in your backyard or something. And yeah, I'll be viewing. And it's funny because it's like let them know you're there so that way they can begin their portion of it, so that way they can achieve their arousal and their, you know, satisfaction level. So it's just like a lot of times I would walk up and be like, hey, I'm running 15 minutes late or something, get there, and they're robed, just sitting there on their phone, and you knock on the window and they're just like, oh, okay. And they could begin. So legal voyeur, yeah, I've been in a couple of contracts that way. Illegal voyeur, I've definitely done that more times.
Come out there.
Oh, statute of limitations.
Story where somebody did something like this.
Statute of limitations is definitely up because, and also, I mean, come on now. I mean, if an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, you know, something like that.
Right. Okay. I like it. Let's go.
No, so it's like there was a time where I honestly enjoyed hiking, and so a couple of times going out on trails, you know, like you're not ever the only person hiking unless you're like going like really off road or off the beaten path. And a lot of people, you know, take time off the trail to go out and do something, whether they're filming for, you know, their social medias or their platforms or whatever, or just, you know, a frisky couple looking to do something out in the woods. And yeah, I've come across that more times than not. Like, especially there was a spot out by my parents' house and everything where when I was younger, it was like the safest place to go smoke because nobody would catch you. And a lot of other people knew that nobody frequented that area either, so they'd go out there to like mess around and everything. So I've passed by and, you know, been privy to a couple of times people just out in the middle of the desert doing the damn thing, and they don't know that anybody's there. They don't know anybody's walking by or anything. And so for me, I can honestly say at a certain point, it's like, all right, this is creepy. Like, I've been here for 5 minutes, like, time to move on, get to walking, you know. Other than that, you are that, you know, you can, for me, like I said, I get that weird feeling where, oh man, if they caught me, you know, like this would be, I'd have some explaining to do. So to avoid an uncomfortable situation, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, all right. Ooh, okay. All right, I'm a weirdo. Like, it's too much for me.
Sounds like the level of voyeurism depends on the amount of shame that you may feel when caught.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's,
yeah, yeah,
and that differs for everybody. For me, like my threshold, like I said, is right around 5 minutes. I mean, some people, they don't have that, and it's not necessarily to say that's a bad thing.
Is it really though? Is it?
It's a long time in sex world. Yes, it is. You just standing there for 5 minutes, like
true.
in the desert going.
That's almost half of 11.
Like, because you know, we have viewers right now that are probably sitting there like, man, am I a weirdo for sitting there for longer than 5 minutes? Because Kane can't sit there for longer than 5 minutes.
Right.
Like I said, that's me personally. Me personally, I feel awkward because it's just like, if you're watching for that long, you're eventually going to want to join. So for me, it's just like, how do you start that conversation? Like, hey, I saw you guys getting down in the woods. You guys need a third?
You need to hold anything for you? If you need to tap out.
Yes.
If you need to tap out, just let me know.
So not to cast shade, not to cast shade or anything on anybody who's just like, oh no, like I'll sit at the beginning and watch the whole thing. Just because I've had clients, I've had people, just when they find out what we do, like they'll start discussing that and be like, oh yeah, I'll watch the whole thing. And like I said, it's not to cast shade or say, like that they're bad for it. Just me personally, I'm like, yeah, about 5 minutes is my cap, and then it's just like, I myself feel a little bit awkward just because there is no consent, and like I said, like legal ramifications, shame, guilt, all that stuff. Trying to come up with an explanation, like I was trimming these hedges.
Walking, hiking. Yes, that word.
Making a giraffe.
Yeah, I was bird watching. That's a good one. We're all bird watchers. Funny how we're a country full of bird watchers. It's nuts.
Right? Yep. See, and I wouldn't have come up with that on the fly, so I definitely would have just been like, it felt good.
All right, Mr. Knight, same question. You want to give us an example of a time that you were a voyeur? Because I got a lot. I'm going to just list them off and I'll ramble for y'all.
I'm going to go Inception. I'm going to go Inception on y'all. So, okay. I was a voyeur to myself.
Ooh, I like it because you can be.
So it was a couple of situations where consensual, of course. Set up a kind of reflective viewing recording thing so that it wasn't so obvious, but you could look and see yourself like it looked like you were peeking at yourself.
Right. Okay.
And that was very interesting because it was like, oh, I'm being naughty to.
I'm being naughty watching someone else being naughty.
That person that looks like me is very naughty, and I'm watching them. Yeah. So it was a fun little experiment.
Okay. That's the one that you're gonna give us. All right.
See, that's a good example.
I more. We'll get it out of you.
Like the horror film like enthusiast in me just like kind of took that at a left direction, went down a rabbit hole. It was like, what would you do if your reflection was doing something other than you were doing?
Ooh.
Like, what if you looked at your reflection, he was just...
That's a glitch in the Matrix.
Like, right?
Yes, for real. At that point, I'm out, and I'm no longer watching.
Like, hold on, though. Like, do you finish?
Why is it not moving like me? I'm not that person. I'm going to be like, yo, that shit ain't moving. I'm out. See y'all later.
All right, so you don't finish then.
No, but I still watch. I'm like, maybe I'll watch it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna ramble off a list for y'all of examples of when I was a voyeur, because I am a huge voyeur. Let me just all consensual, of course. Okay.
Of course.
On set with my wife, I've watched many a porns made. I've been to AVNs, so there's lots of watching that happens there at after parties and the whole nine. I've been to BDSM play parties, and they have rooms where people are exhibitionists, and you can go up to the window. It's a nice big circular window, and they can't see you, but you can see them. Double-sided window. You can just stand there and watch. You can watch everything that's going down in that room. Just watch. I love it. I freaking love it. But this is probably what kind of woke up my voyeurism. So when I was about 16, I moved to New York. Okay. And about third day in, my mom and my brothers and all of us, we decided to walk down to Central Park. Okay. On the way there, we're walking past, and mind you, I have little kids with me, so I'm just like my little brothers, So we're walking down, and there's a alleyway, and I'm hearing all this noise down the alley. Just and so I look, obviously. And it's a businessman, right? He's in the suit, the tie, like Wall Street dude, okay? Just completely nice. Has his briefcase on the ground. There's a trash can. You can't really see the woman. All you can see is her butt sticking out. And he says, ha, 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 ha. And I'm just like, oh, go, Okay, but this is all in the same day, okay? Then we get to Central Park, okay? Walking around Central Park. Traumatized by the size of the rats, because the rats in New York and Central Park.
Big balls. With the big balls.
Little fucking chihuahua, like bigger than chihuahuas. Okay, they're huge. Okay, so traumatized by that. Rat runs across the road. I'm like, that was a rat. And I'm turning and I'm looking, and in the center of the park, hot summer day. Okay, a lot of people out. A lot of people, kids throwing frisbees and balls and just grassy field as far as the eye can see. And in the center, there's this big yellow towel. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you what I saw. A very large woman from behind, you know, like on her knees. But this is all I'm seeing. And I'm watching her like rock like this. And every once in a while, I'm seeing booty cheek, just lots of booty cheek. And I'm going, what is she doing? And so we're walking around the bend. And then I realize there's a very skinny man underneath her. And I'm like, oh, because this woman was so large, all that you could see out of the back were like toes. Okay? I don't know if the guy was short or what, but like all you could see was like a little bit of shin and some toes. And the toes were, and this man is just being enveloped by this woman. And she's,
oh boy.
and then like pulling down her shirt. And
All
we're
right.
in the middle of Central Park. I'm like, is she fuck? She's fucking. And I have to say, I stood there longer than I probably should have because I was just really like,
Your mom needs to stop taking you out at 3 a.m.
my mom's like,
It's time for a walk.
"Natural, honey, it's fine. If we were in Europe, you wouldn't even turn your head. It's fine. Just keep walking. I'm like, but I want to watch the show. They're putting on the show. They're free show.
Oh.
You made me walk away from the alley people. Like what?
That was a homeless person, Dare. You don't want to see that.
And then I've also participated in, you know, threesomes and things like that and been the cameraman. So, you know, hey, that's voyeurism. All consensual, of course, except for, you know, Woke It Up, which was New York. Hi.
It's not like that anymore. Those are the good old days. Those days are different.
Right. You couldn't get away with that. Well, no, I'm not. You know, last time I went home to New York, I saw someone in the alleyway too. So, you know, hey.
Just as a quick note, there was an article about a couple that were getting it on at King's Landing. So they were in Croatia because I have news from Europe. So they were at the actual King's Landing, and they were doing a Cersei Lannister and Jaime Lannister. They're out in front of everybody. Yeah, it was one of those situations.
That's interesting. I would have stopped and watched. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is it them? Can I get an autograph? He's done.
Yep. Would have been there for it. All right, but that is our show for tonight. I think we took you guys on a very great exploration of voyeurism. All right, so, you know, try somewhere new today and watch people. Consensual, of course.
Without binoculars.
Ask for get binoculars, but get permission first. All right, Mr. K, would you like to take us out?
Sure thing. All right, everybody, that's our show for tonight. We hope you all enjoyed it. Hopefully we educated you guys on the topic of voyeurism, and if we missed anything, do us a favor, drop it in the comments, and we will be sure to get back to it, so that way, you know, everybody feels like they're getting their questions answered and you can engage with your SafeWord crew. But for tonight, that is all we have. No comments pending or anything, so we will definitely check you guys out next week. Be on the lookout. Remember to like and subscribe for all of your educational content. And as for us, that is a good night. So be safe, be calm out there. Everybody, just take care of yourselves. And remember, always, always, always have a safe word. Good night, everybody. We'll catch you guys later.